Assalamu alaikum and welcome all of you on this platform. With this lecture, we are going to initiate a series on literary criticism, and we would be discussing various literary critics that are part of BS English Literature, the course of Sargodha University. So, before moving to the literary critics, I would really like to explain what literary criticism really is. As is evident from the name, it involves literature and then it upholds to the activity of criticizing and analyzing. So literature is sum of all the books that are meant to give pleasure and delight to their readers are termed as literature. So literature must have some kind of aesthetic value in it. It might be giving you information about the world, it might be imparting you with some kind of knowledge, as it might be teaching you morality, but it is something that is extraneous. The chief aim of a literary work is to entertain and amuse and to delight its readers. So you learn something from it, so it is better, but you must be having some kind of amusement, entertainment from a literary work. It can be a poem, it can be a drama, it can be novel. So literary criticism is the practice of defining, classifying, analyzing, interpreting, and evaluating literary works. So when you are well versed with the ideas of literary criticism, you can be in a better position to analyze, to appreciate, and have a positive experience with literature. Previously, you have been reading some book. You have been reading novels and poems or any other literary works, but your experiences have been somewhat superficial. But when you go through literary critics, various literary critics, and you learn and you come to know their ideas and their concepts, the whole of your literary horizon is broadened, and you can interact with literature on more deeper level. So literary criticism is a very important area of literature and literary studies, and you might be excited to learn the ideas of literary criticism. So here on this stage, I want you to know that the two main types of literary criticism can be theoretical and practical criticism. Practical criticism can also be known as applied criticism. So theoretical criticism deals with the underlying principles, rules, and regulations that govern the structure of literary works and literary composition. So it develops the broader frameworks and theories to analyze what literary work stands for. It discusses the literary structures, the form, the diction, and other literary principles that are involved when a literary work is formulated, when a literary work is composed. So theoretical criticism gives us many ideas, many theories, many frameworks to analyze any literary criticism, whereas practical or applied criticism, as is evident from the name, involves the close reading of a particular of a specific literary work. It can be a poem, drama, or a novel, or any other work, where you go through that literary work, you analyze its structure, its form, its diction, its themes, its meaning, and you can also analyze its historical and cultural context in which it was produced. It involves the examination of a particular text. Here theoretical criticism might help you. The ideas that you have learned in theoretical criticism, in practical criticism, all those ideas and principles are applied, and the literary worth of a specific work is analyzed, and then verdict is made. So significance of literary criticism, as I was telling you, that literary criticism, it might be dull and boring subject, but you cannot overrule, you cannot neglect its significance. So when you go through the ideas of literary criticism and the literary critics and their works and the theories and the concept that they put forward, it helps you understand literature more in a more deeper way, and then it encourages the activity of critical thinking in you. It helps you appreciate literature and the various themes and the meanings and the symbols and the form and the structure of literature in a more deeper way. So whatever you have been reading previously, after going through the course of literary criticism, your whole understanding of literature would be changed drastically, and it would be a positive experience, I might say. So now we would be moving to the Aristotle. Aristotle is literary giant, rather he is an intellectual giant, because his contribution is not only limited to the field of literary criticism. Rather I would say that he initiated natural sciences. He also wrote for logic, for politics, and for rhetoric and metaphysics. So he is one of the greatest philosophers of ancient Greek time. Two others can be termed as Plato and his tutor Socrates. So Aristotle was born in 384 BC and he died in 322 BC. He was born in a small town of Stygira, located in Macedonia. His father's name was Nicomachus and he was a physician. He was working in the court of King Amyntas II. He was Aristotle. He was quite young when his father died, but his influence on the young mind of Aristotle can not be neglected, because he initiated the initial training of our scientific inquiry, and later on Aristotle's whole outlook towards nature and various branches of knowledge was changed. So it was his father who initiated in him the urge to pursue scientific inquiry and many branches of knowledge. So we see that in 367 he moved to the Athens to study in Plato's Academy. Plato was the greatest philosopher who came up with the idea of philosopher king, and many philosophic notions are attributed with Plato. In fact, his contribution to the philosophy is as significant as critics say that all of Western philosophy can be considered as footnotes to the main work of Plato's philosophic treatise. So he also initiated an educational institution named as Academy. So Aristotle joined him in 367 in Athens. In 343 we see that King Philip of Macedonia invited Aristotle to tutor his son Alexander, who later on became the conqueror of half of the world. Aristotle served as a tutor to great Alexander for the 4 years. Later on, Aristotle returned to the Athens and he started and established his own educational institution. This institution was known as Lysium. You must keep in mind that Plato's educational institution was named as Academy, and institution established by Aristotle was named as Lysium. And this particular name was dedicated to the Apollo Lysius, who was god of shepherds. Lysium was not an ordinary school, rather it had a large library, a natural history museum, and various zoological garden were also attached with this school. It is also said that Plato's Academy attracted students from aristocracy. Students from elite class used to come and join Plato's Academy, whereas students coming from the lower strata of society, particularly from the middle classes, they would join Aristotle's Lyceum. So we see that a sort of rivalry developed between two schools, and the two divergent school of thoughts later on came into being. As far as literary works of Aristotle's are concerned, Aristotle wrote many works, but alas, we couldn't come to have all of these works. He wrote 27 dialogues, but none of them survived. Only 1/4 of his literary outputs has reached us, and these literary production, these works only consist of his lectures and notes that were compiled by his students. Aristotle has significantly contributed, there is no doubt, to many branches of knowledge like philosophy, biology, and natural sciences and literary criticism. Rather, he can be termed as the father of literary criticism because it was his ideas, it was due to his ideas that later on many Western literary critics that took inspiration from Poetics and the ideas laid down by Aristotle. So, we see that 323 Aristotle left Athens and he came back to the Messenia, where he passed away sometime later. His important books include Metaphysics, Poetics, Rhetoric, Politics, and Nicomachean Ethics, that is his philosophic work. You must be knowing at least 2 to 3 books of Aristotle. A question can be asked from the university. We would be moving to the socio-cultural condition of the time period in which Aristotle was writing, because we cannot appreciate any work of art, any work of literature, any writer without having knowledge of the time period in which he is located. So at that time period when Aristotle was writing Poetics, Greek were living in city-state system. Every city is considered a separate state and it was ruled by their own people. The population in these states ranged from 15 to 50,000 people, and they were having naturally occurring boundaries. They were surrounded by the mountains. So people in these states used to gather in open areas and they would decide their matters by direct voting. It was due to their limited number of population that they could practice direct democracy, whereas today we are having indirect democracy in our countries. Athens was considered as a cultural hub in terms of art, culture, civilization, philosophy, and in terms of literary production, architecture, and sculpture. It was leading the rest of the states. So all the states looked up to Athens in terms of culture and civilization. So they were also having flourishing system of democracy. As far as social setup is concerned, their society was hierarchically divided. They were having classes of citizen, non-citizen, and slavery was an important feature of their social setup. Even at times Aristotle advocated for the institution of slavery because having slaves gave them ample time to indulge in other beneficial activities like philosophy, like politics, like rhetoric and logic. So slavery was an important feature of their social setup, and they were very much advanced in terms of intellectual and artistic production. Then political instability and war was an important feature of their setup. We see that in case of Peloponnesian War that continued for a period of almost 30 years, Athens and Sparta, they were having a continual war and skirmishes. So any state that became powerful, it tried to subdue other states. So there was a kind of instability always present in that background. Plato's influence can never be neglected in terms of Aristotle's intellectual production. Aristotle was greatly indebted to the Plato. As far as he did not agree with all of his tutors' ideas, mentors' ideas. He deviated significantly in terms of his idealistic bent of mind from Plato, but we see that Plato greatly influenced Aristotle's. Now, finally, we are moving to the Poetics. It is very likely that it was written in the last 12 years of Aristotle's life, that are between 335 to 323 BCE. The book is very short. It consists of 26 chapters and they range from 50 to 60 pages. This was translated by the Andronicus of Rhodes in the 1st century BC, and we should be very thankful to this person because he made this very important book available to all of us. The themes that are covered by the Poetics include mimesis, tragedy, proper construction of tragedy, its elements, and then its impact upon the audience, that is known as catharsis. Poetics is very foundational work and you cannot get the degree of BS English without going through this work. It is also known as the Bible of criticism because it laid the foundation of subsequent criticism. Thank you all of you for watching and for listening and staying till the end. Thank you.